that federal support for research is not just an academic concern. It has also been a fundamental driver of this country's economic prosperity. In their most recent economic report, United for Medical Research showed that in fiscal year 2024, every dollar of research funding awarded by the National Institutes of Health yielded a return of $2.56 of economic activity. That is more than a 150% return on investment. Few sectors of our economy can compete with that. In Pennsylvania alone, NIH funding directly supported over 21,000 research jobs, and it indirectly supported over 97,000 more jobs across the biopharmaceutical industry. The NSF, for its part, funds over 50% of basic scientific research in American institutions. The federal investment in science has long been a catalyst for innovation and the creation of high-growth industries in this country. It makes America great, yes. From the early physics research that led to the semiconductors powering our computers and mobile devices, yes, here in Philly, to the economic and algorithm research that continues to facilitate everything from organ transplants to shipping routes, to the mRNA research here in Philly that led to the COVID-19 vaccines that were on their fight during the pandemic. Gutting federal support of scientific organizations like the NIH and the NSF, which is exactly what this administration seeks to do, will mean not only fewer treatments for diseases and fewer breakthrough technologies, but also fewer startups, fewer small and large businesses, and fewer jobs in fields that are driving economic growth in this state and across this country. Also fewer graduate students, yeah. Amanda Rabinowitz, one of my co-organizers from the Stand Up for Science rally last week, will be speaking after me. As we mentioned, she and I were here a week ago in this exact same spot, rallying with over 2,000 scientists and healthcare providers in our city. We are back today because we in the science community cannot fight this fight alone. Through its impact on the economy and frankly its impact on every aspect of our daily lives, investment in science benefits everyone. And to save it from being systematically dismantled by the Trump administration, we need everyone to stand up for science. They want us to feel powerless and alone, but we know that we are neither powerless nor alone. We know that there is strength in our numbers, and that if we stand united in our defiance, we will win. So call, email, write to your congressional representatives. Tell them that you, their constituents, understand the critical role that science investment plays in our society and demand that they continue to support it. We need to clog their phone lines, crash their inboxes, make it impossible for them to ignore us. Thank you. Give it up for science! Come on! Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Clarion. As she mentioned, we're going to be hearing from her coworker after the next speaker. Okay, anybody can see my shirt? You see what it says? Fight for Fit happens to be a shirt for the Philadelphia Union, the MLS crew. I don't know if anybody else here is a duper. Do you
stoop, Andre Blake, brick wall. Anyways, I have this shirt on because you are about to hear from the president of the Pennsylvania American Federation of Teachers. And nobody fights workers like unions. And who needs help? Who needs help? The teachers need our help. You are about to hear from President Arthur Steinberg. He's a former special ed teacher in Philadelphia Public Schools, right? And as I mentioned, he's currently president of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers in AFT, Pennsylvania. Those together represent 36,000 public school professionals and 63 local affiliates throughout the Commonwealth. Wow! Arthur is a second-generation union organizer. He helped lead public educators to victory over the School Reform Commission and the illegal attempt by the then Governor Corbett's administration to unilaterally cancel Philadelphia's teachers' contracts. Can you guys just pretend you're stomping your feet for Arthur? Because I feel like teachers need even more than your signs. Give it up for Arthur Steinberg!
I want to thank Indivisible Philadelphia. Can you hear me now? Yes. I want to thank Indivisible Philadelphia and 50501 Philadelphia for putting this rally together and giving me the opportunity to participate. I'm going to concentrate on what I know best. The previous speakers have laid out for you really what the overall plan of the must-Trump administration is. And notice which name I put first. Because that unelected official, not even official, is really running this government. Yeah. This week, that administration laid off over half of the staff of the Department of Education. To help understand the significance of this and the dishonesty of what they are putting out there, it helps to have a little bit of the background. Well, the Department of Education was created by President Carter. The genesis is really from President LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. A lot of people don't realize he was a teacher in South Texas. And he noticed his kids were coming to school hungry, didn't have the supplies to perform their work, came to school without seeing a crayon or a book. And he realized that the federal government had to equalize the opportunity. Yes. So the creation of the Department of Education was an opportunity to level the playing field for the disadvantaged. There's a misconception out there that they determine what schools teach in the curriculum. No. And the funds itself, they are already in the hands of the state. This attempt is clearly part of the plan to divert public funds to provide tax cuts for billionaires. Let me give you some stark facts on it, try and put a face on. How's that? Okay. So just some facts on what the impact will be nationwide, in Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia. The main cast of where, and the main place where these funds go is directly to the kids. It's funneled through the state to the kids that are supposed to benefit from the services. Title I, which is designed for kids in poverty, affects 26 million people across the country. The IDA, which the services that kids with disabilities are supposed to get from the federal government, it affects 7.5 million kids. These services include speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, salaries for teachers that specialize in special education, and paraprofessionals. The impact on Philadelphia is the 1,449 positions are funded. Now, these services are still mandated. So if, in fact, they cut the funding, it's going to have a trickle-down effect, and the services to help the poor kids make up for their lack of reading and math instruction before they get into school will obviously be impacted. Research has shown that kids that don't have preschool, which Head Start is also funded by the DOA, have less of a chance of success as they progress through education and will fail. The DOE also funds Pell Grants. Do we all know what Pell Grants are? Yes! They are grants, not loans, that allow, again, disadvantaged youth and families to go to college. Without these, you're not going to have a thriving middle class.
That's right.
It funds career and technical education. In Pennsylvania, $76.5 million in career and technical education. You hear all the rhetoric now that everybody doesn't have to go to college. Well, there are good paying jobs out there if you have well-funded programs. However, they don't want educated, well-trained people. It's reminiscent of the days when you had the factory system. They wanted an uneducated workforce that would just follow instructions. They don't want anybody to critically think.
They don't care about kids.
The city of Philadelphia receives over $500 million in direct and indirect federal aid. Again, who's it going to impact? Everybody, and you're right with everybody, because it takes a village to raise a child in a society, right? But the ones that will suffer the most are those that need the most assistance. And again, that's intentional because they don't have any power. They fail. Pennsylvania, 797,000 students are the beneficiaries of Title I funding. 358,000 receive services and benefits under the IDEA. That's, well, I can't do the math in my head right now. It's not the math teacher. And by the way, a little fact checking. I am still a special ed teacher on leave doing this job. So that way, I kind of am in touch with what's going on, and I'm not just sitting in an office somewhere pontificating. That's well north of 1 million kids. $792 million in the Title I, and I think $560 million in the special ed, north of $1 billion. These services must be provided, and a little bit of a riff on what my brother from AFGA, he said at the beginning. The power does rest with us, and we have to fight for it. However, the one thing that the politicians and the progressive people do understand is their survival. So they want to stay in office. So they will fight for us if, in fact, they realize it's important and that their seats are at risk. One of the reasons that you have not seen the executive order on dismantling the Department of Education yet is because a week ago Tuesday, the AFT, my national union, hosted 2,000 events across the country to protest this. As impressive as that is, we need to give ourselves a big hand. Over 200 of them were right here in Philadelphia. Our voice is being heard. This is essentially an end run around the Congress because they have the responsibility for this. And these Republican and red seats realize that their constituents are going to lose services too, particularly in the rural areas. So if you want to help, as part of this overall process, write, call, your congressmen and your senators and let them know that you want educational opportunity for all kids in this country. It is a great amount of privilege, and you don't want public education dollars being diverted to provide tax cuts for billionaires. Thank you for your attendance on Saturday. I'm sure better things to do. And as someone before me said, when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. We will fight, and we will win.
Practical information about what you can do now. You folks are so lucky. You know who you get to hear next? Another scientist. Yeah, because science NIH grants brings $2.5 billion to Pennsylvania alone last year. Huge economy. So I'm delighted to introduce you to Dr. Amanda Rabinowitz. She's a neuropsychologist and federally funded research scientist. She's based here in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia scientists, I'm a little biased, but they're the best. Dr. Rabinowitz has lived and worked here for the last 25 years. She's passionate about science advocacy. She was one of the other core organizers for the Stand Up for Science event last Friday. Yes. Dr. Rabinowitz is not only an incredible scientist, she's also the mom of 2 Philadelphia public school students and loves raising kids in this great city. As Dr. Rabinowitz walks up here, I'd love you guys to just move your feet a little bit. Let her see that you're signs. Get them up. Get them up. Get them up.
Last week, I stood here as part of the Stand Up for Science National Day of Action. We took scientists out of the lab on a Friday afternoon and into the streets because the Trump administration's actions over the past few months have been nothing short of an all-out assault on science and truth. What has this administration done? Well, they've cut funding from federal agencies like the NIH and NSF, gutting the backbone of scientific research in the U.S. They've censored scientific information from government websites, hiding vital public health and climate data. They've dismantled the government workforce that supports research and funding. They've gagged scientists and public servants from acknowledging the existence of any identity that isn't a white man. And they've retaliated against higher education institutions suppressing free speech and scientific inquiry. These attacks are being framed as efforts to improve efficiency and counteract a woke ideology. Let's dismantle that fiction. These actions have already caused chaos, economic fallout, job losses, you've heard about those, and the stalling of real progress to make us healthier, safer, and save lives. At the heart of the assault on science is an attack on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. DEIA. Trump and Musk would have you believe that these are extreme political ideas imposing a left-wing agenda onto science. But let's be clear. DEIA is about scientific integrity and saving lives. If science doesn't include everyone, it ain't the whole truth. Studying differences in medication effects have revealed crucial insights into how drugs work across sex, gender, and racial groups, not only impacting the effectiveness of treatment, but the safety of these treatments for everyone. Research into racial disparities in areas like maternal mortality, pain management, and mental health access has exposed life-threatening inequities in our healthcare system. This administration has targeted research on trans healthcare, attempting to erase the identity and medical needs of trans and non-binary individuals. Ignoring these realities isn't just immoral, it is unscientific. Science that excludes people is incomplete science. And let's not forget, we have a shameful history in this country of exclusion and exploitation within science. The Tuskegee syphilis study left black men to suffer untreated. Henrietta Lacks cells were taken without her consent, fueling decades of research. Indigenous and black women were forcibly sterilized under unethical medical programs. We must learn from this history, not repeat it. And yet, this administration is purging scientific research by blacklisting words from grant proposals like women, diverse, historically biased, and excluded. Their goal is not just to stop research, but to intimidate scientists into silence. The best science comes from a diverse workforce. For most of our nation's history, women and people of color were locked out of higher education. We know that bias still exists in admissions practices, hiring, career advancement, and yet despite these obstacles, today's scientific trainees are more diverse, better trained, and more accomplished than any generation before them. That is not a weakness. That is a strength. A diverse workforce asks better questions, finds better answers, and solves bigger problems. And that's why this administration wants to turn back the clock to a time when only a select few, mostly white men, controlled knowledge and truth. We're not going to let that happen, are we? Institutions across this country, including in this very city, are bending to these attacks. They are They are quietly scrubbing DEIA language from their websites. Dismantling programs and rebranding diversity efforts under vague new names. That is not resistance, that is surrender. As a neuropsychologist and brain injury rehabilitation researcher, I see firsthand the devastating effects of these attacks. Racial and ethnic disparities in traumatic brain injury are well documented. Black men are at a significantly higher risk of sustaining a TBI, and socioeconomically disadvantaged and minority groups are less likely to receive an accurate diagnosis in the ER. They're less likely to receive comprehensive rehabilitation services, and they're more likely to die or suffer devastating mental health consequences. Most of what we know about the consequences of repetitive brain trauma comes from studies done among mostly men in military and professional sports contexts, ignoring the context in which women are most vulnerable, intimate partner violence. And yet, women are more likely to experience persistent post-concussion symptoms, and we still don't understand why. This crucial life-saving research is in its infancy, and if this administration succeeds in dismantling these efforts, its progress is threatened. My research focuses on disability, one of those banned words from the administration. This is not just an attack on my career, it's an attempt to erase people with lived experience of disability who I've dedicated my life's work to helping. We won't fight oppression by hiding, by trying to quietly do our work under the radar. We fight it by standing up and speaking out. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility are not controversial, they are fundamental. And as the Trump administration continues to expand what falls under this umbrella of DEI, soon every scientist, every educator, every one of us will be under attack. On March 7th, I stood here with over 2,000 scientists and community members to declare that we will not stand for this. Across the country, tens and thousands of scientists joined us in the streets. We must continue to fight. We must demand that our elected officials and institutions fight for us. We must refuse to let science, truth, and discovery be gutted by corruption and fear. As a rehab scientist, I'm going to channel your physical therapist right now and let you know that activism is a muscle. High repetition practice is what I prescribe. We have to do this and do it again and again and again. Because when we fight, when we fight, thank you. Oh yeah, you have heard today from scientists, from labor organizers, from the teachers union, from your neighborhood organizers. I want to see your signs as I tell you who your last speaker is. Get them up, get them up, get them up. Amazing, amazing. And repeat after me. April 5th. April 5th. I'll be here. I'll be here. April 5th. April 5th. I'll bring my neighbor. I'll bring my neighbor. Awesome. And if you want to know what happens on April 5th, get these QR codes, folks. Man, are you in for a treat for our last speaker? Councilmember Rue Landau, a civil rights attorney and first openly LGBTQ member of Philadelphia City Council. Councilmember Landau has spent her entire career fighting for social justice. Prior to being elected in office, she worked at Community Legal Service and directed the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations. And
Outdoor dining, I love that. In the city's arts and culture sectors, folks, get your signs up, give a cheer for Councilmember, we love you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, 50501. And let's do what the good doctor prescribed. Let's get that muscle memory started. I'm going to do a chant. I'm going to ask you, what does democracy look like? And you're going to tell me, this is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
From my vantage point, you are so beautiful, you are so strong, and we are doing exactly what we need to do right now, which is to resist this fascism. So thank you so much for the introduction. Just to make sure you all know that I am a civil rights and housing attorney, the first openly LGBTQ member of City Council, and a proud parent of a public school student. I have been so amazed listening to all of our incredible speakers today, and I want to tell you that I have been there for the science rally. I have been there for the education rallies. I have been there for the labor rallies, and that's what we all have to do. We have to be there for each other, showing up, standing up, supporting each other during these times. Under normal circumstances, I would be so happy to be here with all of you today. But I am sorry that we have to be here. I am sorry that we are out here raising our voices, uniting against a president and a government that should be protecting us, supporting us, and helping us to thrive. He's doing the opposite. Our government operates on a system of checks and balances. Donald Trump is operating on a system of executive overreach, a system of uninformed conspiracy and punishment, and a system of fascism. I know you've heard it before because you're the ones out here today and rallying for stability. But the best thing that we can do, the most effective thing we can do, is fight at the state and local levels. That's how we protect each other. That's how we build and grow community. 2 days ago in City Council, I introduced a resolution condemning the federal government for cuts to HUD, the Housing and Urban Development. They've also made cuts to so many other departments that you've heard about today, and they are effectively gutting the Department of Education. Who does that? What monster does that, I ask you? I condemn the Trump administration in the past, and I will continue doing it because he's making unethical, unconstitutional executive orders, and he's challenging us to fight. But what happens when we fight? What happens when we fight? That is exactly what we got to do from this moment forward. I'm fighting. I've been working to provide affordable housing here in Philly throughout my entire career. I've helped tenants against bad landlords. I've led the Civil Rights Agency defending our neighbors against hate crimes and discrimination. And Trump's extreme Project 2025 agenda is undermining our civil rights, our families' well-being, and our very democracy. And so we have to fight in order to win. Trump's cuts are a threat to fair housing. His cuts are an attack on the fundamental right to safe and stable housing. His cuts are an attack on our right to public education, to promoting equity and inclusion, and to the livelihood of thousands and thousands of Americans who work in the federal government and now are out of a job. Federal and nonprofit employees across the U.S. are either out of a job or anxiously losing their jobs every single day. And as somebody who has worked very closely with agencies like the EEOC that is fighting against discrimination, or a HUD that is working so hard to make sure we have affordable housing, it is absolutely barbaric to cut those institutions. This is not the action of a leader. These are actions of a dictator. And it's not about policy. This is about people. It's about everyone out here today, all of you, and the work that you're doing. It's about the families who don't know if they can keep a roof over their heads next month. It's about the students whose schools are underfunded and overcrowded. President Trump and his administration are pushing us in the wrong direction, and it is our responsibility, our moral responsibility, to push back and fight back. You've just heard about his recent executive orders that have restricted access to gender-affirming healthcare, defunded institutions studying gender dysphoria, and redefined gender in ways that erase trans and non-binary people from legal recognition. Since you won't say it, I will. Our LGBT community matters. Our non-binary and trans members will not be erased by legislation. I don't just say that because I am a member of the community. I say that because we have to care about each other. We have to advocate for each other, stand strong with each other, and protect all of our siblings across Philadelphia. This city, this state, this country, they belong to us. Not the billionaires, not the lobbyists, and certainly not a leader who puts his own interests before the people that they serve. I stand here with you today. We will win this one if we are united. When we fight back, we win. We do not serve billionaires. We are a strong city, and when the nation is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back!
When our nation is under attack, what do? Fight back! When our nation is under attack, what do? Thank you so much. I will see you at the next one. Keep on fighting. Everybody in Philadelphia. I love you. Still love you. We will work to protect you as much as we possibly can against all of this. What happens on April 5th is there are speakers and they march to Independence Hall. I say April, you say 5th. April. 5th. April. 5th. I say QR, you say code. Let's say it again. I say QR, you say code. QR. QR. Because this has solutions. This gives you not just what's right.